Dynamite!
It's Dynamite!
Wednesday night, Don-O-Mite!
So Dynamite!
This is awesome! This is this, this is that, this is this! Hey everybody, have a great time!
It's Dynamite!
I'm not one of these f***ing booth podcasters out there. I am Don Tony, Wednesday night, Dynamite! Hey, what's going on, everybody? Don Tony here. It is Wednesday night, 10:15 p.m., February 19th, 2020. Just finished a great episode of NXT, but in my opinion, a much better... What the hell is this alarm? Anybody hear that shit? Fucking battery. Look at... I think somebody's trying to play some fun over here. Do you hear that? Hang on, everybody. I got a battery backup over here. It's amazing how the gremlins... There's a lot of podcasters out there always trying to screw me. If anybody notices online, we broke 3,000 subscribers, 5,000 subscribers, 6,000 subscribers, 7,000 subscribers. And so many of my podcasting buddies are so jealous that they don't mention it. They don't like it. They're not happy for it. So I know we're doing a pretty damn good job on this show. But I tell you, that was a little weird. I have a battery backup down here. And this way, if we ever have a power outage for any reason, I don't have to worry about the computer shutting down immediately. I don't have to worry about the stream getting cut off immediately. And literally, as soon as I switch the camera over, the freaking sound thing starts going off. My battery backup, I have this thing for like 3 years. So anyway, as I was saying, you know what? A lot of them hate AEW. So maybe that's the reason why. Because I was just saying that NXT was a great episode today. But I think AEW was that much better from beginning to end. Is it perfect? No. I mean, but it's Wednesday night. It's not Monday. It's not 3 million viewers. It's not $1 billion company. It's a promotion that's not even around technically for 6 months. I mean, it's blows me away how some people online can't stand AEW, but they set the bar so high. Oh, and listen, you follow me, you know I will give all the criticism that is needed towards AEW, but I'll also give the praise where praise is due. Later on in this show, I am going to talk a little bit about Nyla Rose winning the women's title. Now, last week I mentioned it. I praised it. I thought it was a good thing. I have no problem with it. What transpired over the last 7 days was pretty interesting. And I guess Val Venus, unfortunately, ends up being the poster child of all the dopey shit being said online. And trust me, I know I always brag and I know I always put myself over, so to speak. But I promise you, I will give you 2 points tonight that it doesn't matter who you are arguing with online. It could be Val Venus. It could be the goofy podcaster that is busy playing with his penis. You will win this argument about Nyla Rose every freaking time. Not even a question. I had the same conversation with people for the last 4 or 5 days, and every single time I threw this dart out there, they had no comeback. Zero. None whatsoever. But let me explain that later. And also later on, I'm going to talk a little bit about the update with Teddy Hart, because there is an update regarding his arrest. I told everybody he was still in jail last week. I told everybody that it was probably weed and steroids, but there's a couple of things that went down yesterday, and I want to clear up a couple of inaccuracies that are online. But before we even do that, next week, there's going to be another thing in the background, actually a piece of artwork but also another little gig. If you follow me on Twitter at Don Tony D, you already know one of the things I'm getting. I'm getting like this little prize wheel, and it's not just going to be for prizes. But what I'm going to do is we're going to put like a whole bunch of, I don't want to say dumb topics, but topics that we will address that a lot of other people just won't. And then we'll spin the wheel. And then maybe we'll just throw shade on whatever it lands. I haven't thought it through yet, but I'm going to get it over the weekend. I'm going to set it up. What's up, Zachary? And we'll have fun with that whatsoever. Now, few of you are asking, why am I wearing this shirt? Hey, this is Wednesday night. It's everything but Raw. It's everything but Smackdown. Well, we saw what happened with Matt Hardy on Monday, and I swear to you, I'm not claiming I'm the first person to say this. I'm sure some people out there have the same mindset as me, and sure, it doesn't spell the same way it's portrayed on TV as far as the product or the phrase, but, you know, for his family, I feel Matt Hardy should do what is best for his family. If it is job security, if WWE wants to pay him a ton of money and wrestle part-time, although I think he still wants to wrestle so he could, just like a lot of other people out there, Goldberg did it, MVP did it, this person did it, he wants his kids to see him wrestle. Right now, Wolfgang and the others are too small. So he probably wants to wrestle and do a little bit more. And he could be a producer 5 years from now. He could be an agent 7 years from now. There's no rush. But the reason why I'm wearing this shirt is because I said this the other day. I'll say it again now. If Matt Hardy shows up in AEW, I guarantee you that within 2 weeks, you will have even AEW haters out there saying, Vince, why did you let this guy go? Are you nuts? This guy's going to tear it up. But the reason why I'm wearing the shirt is because what I want to see those cameras go out, off, all the lights go out. And when the lights come on, I want him in the ring, and I want him to do this. Elite, 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 elite. Not delete, but elite. Get the D out. Yes, it doesn't spell the same way, but that freaking crowd, I could picture it now. Elite, elite, elite. Speaking of elite, I was joking with a few people online earlier, and just out of the clear blue, I just wrote, you know, when it comes to talent, Austin Aries is an all-elite wrestler. Is an elite wrestler, excuse me. And I was trying to do a little pun with the AEW letters because there was some reports online today that Austin Aries was backstage at AEW. Don't know if it's true. Maybe he ends up on a dark match tonight, which I don't think would be a smart thing to do. If Austin Aries ends up working out a deal with AEW, you do not blow your load with a dark match and let people see that he's wrestling already. You do that as a surprise. You do that on regular television. Another thing, tonight, I know a lot of you out there, your eyes didn't deceive you. Everybody seems to think that Raven was sitting at ringside. I looked at it quickly, and it looked like it was Raven. It would not surprise me if it was Raven, especially where they were tonight in Atlanta, Georgia. But again, I thought NXT had a great show tonight. And, you know, there's some of you out there that are a little frustrated that I spend so much more time on AEW than NXT. You have to understand something. Tonight's episode of NXT is a perfect example why it is very difficult to have even time when you cover AEW and you cover NXT. You know, you have 2 matches, maybe 3 on NXT that are quite long. But nothing, you know, controversial comes out of it. I'm not going to sit here and do a play-by-play and talk about this move, this move, this move. Of course, I'll bring up certain moments in the match that stood out for me. But when you have the opening match, Jordan Devlin and Lio Rush going past 8:30, and on AEW TV, we already had the Battle Royal. We already found out who the number 1 contenders were going to be for the tag titles, which I told you about 3 or 4 weeks ago. It was going to be the Young Bucks versus Paige and Omega at Revolution. I know they're still on par to have a split between Omega and Page. I personally think that Hangman Page is so over with the fans right now. You know, I would love to see a swerve where Omega turns or they just leave them a tag team. You know, maybe that was on their radar a month and a half ago, and I think a lot of you out there are expecting the turn to happen. You know, and yeah, they keep having, you know, the faux pas during their match, you know, but when you keep doing a faux pas match after match after match after match, it doesn't feel special anymore. But you almost see it coming that Hangman Page is not going to be happy that Omega is mingling with the Young Bucks, who are going to be their opponents at Revolution, and that kind of sets a little dissension there. But, you know, this, again, you look at everything that went down on AEW for the first 31 minutes, and then you look at, you know, Lio Rush versus Jordan Devlin, which was a great match. What do you want me to say about the match? I mean, I could describe Jordan Devlin and Lio Rush in about 30 seconds. You know, when you talk about so many things that went down in AEW in that same 31 minutes, you know, now you understand why. I don't do it intentionally. Plus, AEW is still a new kid on the block, so there's a lot of other topics to get into. So that, I just wanted to throw that out there right off the bat because I don't want anybody to feel, you know. One thing I did want to share with everybody, I got this sent to me online about maybe a half an hour before we went live, and it's all over social media, and I know everybody's going to be covering this tomorrow, and we've talked about it already. This coming weekend is, I guess, the Toy Fair here in New York City. I was going to go, but unfortunately, a few people did not tell me originally that it was press only. And by the time a few people were trying to get me press to go to this toy fair, it was too late. So I can't go. But one of the features that are going to be at the toy fair this weekend is the new toy line that's going to be coming out for AEW. And tonight, during Dynamite, I personally think this would have been cool to play on television for everybody. And maybe they did. Maybe I was, you know, inside getting myself a beverage or doing something and I missed it. I don't think it was on TV, though. But for those out there that, you know, want to see this little clip, this is about AEW's upcoming toy line.
I'm Dana Massey. I'm the Chief Marketing and Merchandising Officer for All Elite Wrestling. I'm excited to announce our partnership with Jazzwares and Wicked Cool Toys for our new figure line.
Mrs. Matt has been working very hard to bring you guys
Look at that.
your very own first
Lord.
AEW
Nice.
All Elite Wrestling action figures.
Look at the little
awesome.
eyebrow thing going. Look at that.
From their gear to that tattoos, the facial features, their facial expressions.
I mean, the Bucks, their figures look so good.
Pleased to bring you the first
Oh.
AEW Kenny Omega.
That,
Very delicate.
yes. And
But-
that is me. That's really good. This is one of my favorite sets of gear, too. Like, I'm glad that it's being represented.
Another pop. Couldn't fit it on there just yet. Prototype of the very first ever Wicked Cool Toys.
Oh, wow.
AEW Unrivaled Chris Jericho action figure.
That's really cool. Tights look good, boots, great detail.
We are very proud to immortalize you in plastic with AEW.
It's so good. It looks like
Everybody's saying it was on
look at
TV
you.
tonight. Good. Very, very smart on their part.
Dang. That's right. Do I got one? Whoa.
Maybe.
Oh,
You're a good EVP.
Holy Oh.
The American Nightmare.
Sledgehammer.
This-
Come
this-
on.
this-
it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, you guys did
Really
a
like-
wonderful job.
The internet's gonna love the hammer.
He's got them all
Yeah,
tucked away.
yeah.
He'll bring them out.
These are beautiful. Great stuff.
I thought that was cool. And yeah, apparently I was inside getting like some chicharrones because I'm on keto, and they aired that on TV. Very, very smart. And speaking of very, very smart, this is something that I have complained for years about with WWE. And I know a lot of other people have expressed this frustration in the past as well. And that is tag team battle royals, tag team elimination matches. One thing that I just absolutely hated about WWE in the past is that, especially with Battle Royals, is if you have one person get eliminated, the entire team gets eliminated. Now, WWE, let's also be honest, that they have very few tag team Battle Royals. It's usually pin or submission, then the team leaves, because think about it. Do you remember ever seeing a WWE Battle Royal and somebody gets eliminated and the other guy that may not have been eliminated is in the ring and he's like, shucks, gee, shucks, now I have to leave too? I don't really remember that ever happening, and I probably would have vented about it on a podcast. That's why they usually do pin or submission, because somebody gets pinned, the whole team leaves. Tonight, for the opening, the Battle Royal, the Tag Team Battle Royal for the number one contendership, they had it that both team members needed to be eliminated. Very, very smart, logical, makes sense. And what I loved, and this is not kissing AEW's butt, what I loved about that match tonight, and again, think about it. They had that match, they determined number one contenders, and they were already halfway through Statlander's match, and, you know, before Leo Rush was even done with his match. What I loved about it is when you see battle royals happen, especially in WWE, you'll see 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 people get eliminated in like a minute. Like just one after the other. Boom, boom, boom. Especially when it's Survivor Series matches and there's like 10, 12, 16, whatever it is, when they used to have like the 10 on 10 or the 5. I mean, you would see 2, 3, 4 people get eliminated in like 10 seconds, and it sucked. A roll up here, roll up there, roll up everywhere. This tonight, with all of those eliminations, because think about it, you had 2 times as many eliminations. It did not feel that anything was rushed tonight. There were a couple of overly choreographed spots, obviously. I like what they did with Orange Cassidy. And, you know, shout out to Jason Solomonster, who, you know, thought, you know, was lighthearted joke as well. If anybody knows what happened to him last week with AEW and YouTube, you know, we had a little fun with it today, because during the Battle Royal, we had the Bunny kick Orange Cassidy in the pits, the orange pits. And I looked at that and I'm like, wow, if the Bunny was AEW and Orange Cassidy was Jason and Dynamite was YouTube, that's basically what happened last week. You know, Jason got kicked in the orange pits. But, and few people are asking what happened. Very simply put, somehow Jason was flagged on one of his podcasts. I think maybe from last year, AEW had flagged him for something. And he didn't do anything wrong. And apparently, AEW said, look, we never flagged you. YouTube thought he did. And YouTube was going to prevent him from doing any live podcasting on YouTube until I think the month of May, which was ridiculous. So luckily, he got a screenshot from AEW saying, we never flagged you. YouTube verified it with AEW almost immediately, and the matter was resolved. But for a little while, it was a little hairy. And if you saw that segment tonight with the Bunny and Orange Cassidy, I don't know, it just reminded me of what happened with Jason last week. So, but anyway, you know, before we get into more AEW, NXT, Nyla Rose, Impact Wrestling, MLW, Stardom, what's going on with the coronavirus, which is affecting shows overseas in Japan, a little bit of NWA first. And, you know, I want to throw this out there for anybody who is into like buying wrestlers' gear. Some of you out there might want to buy a women's wrestling outfit. For those that are interested, last week, unfortunately, Thunder Rosa was involved in an auto accident. She didn't get injured, from what I understand, but she had a lot of damage to her car, and apparently she didn't have full coverage. Because of that, she needed to raise money quickly to fix her car, because she uses it, I guess, you know, to travel and for, you know, so you could go from arena to arena. And what you see on the screen right now are 3 outfits that she is selling. Now, it's not on eBay. I personally would have liked to have seen it on eBay, but I understand why some people don't do that, because, you know, if it doesn't sell high, it almost looks a little embarrassing. Plus, you don't want to overprice it. So she was taking private inquiries through Twitter, I believe. So if you go to Thunder Rosa's Twitter, if you're interested in buying any of those outfits, that will help her with her auto costs. I figured I'd just share that with everybody out there. But yesterday, we did not get an episode of NWA Power. Instead, we got the debut of this, Circle Squared. Now, I can't play any clips from it because I don't know if NWA is going to try to flag it or get pissed off about it. But basically what they're doing now is I think some of you may compare it to NWA Gut Check Challenge, TNA Gut Check Challenge. They had a match, but what they did was they had various wrestling fans, wrestling fans that do podcasts. Blue Meanie made an appearance, and they had like a little box. It's almost the reverse of what I do. I usually put a box in the top left-hand corner of certain things you want to see, and then you see me on it's the opposite. On the lower left-hand corner, you had the podcaster or a wrestling fan, and then you saw what you saw on the screen, and they were giving their thoughts on the matches. You had different people, regular, Tom, Dick, or Harry's, and I'm a regular Tom, Dick, or Harry as well. And I thought all of the fans and the podcasters that made appearances did a great job. It was very interactive. NWA is very, very smart to embrace a lot of podcasters out there. Even if podcasters only have 30 fans, if that podcaster is a supporter of your product, that podcaster is going to portray your product in more of a positive light, and your supporters see that they may be inclined to do it as well. I have worn shirts. I have brought up things that I take on my keto diet. I've bought things, and people have gotten it just on recommendations. I look at the mixer, the Rodecaster Pro that I have. I got it. I loved it, and I was talking about it a little bit. Some people picked it up. I use Hindenburg for my audio editing software for the podcasting, the audio side of it. And I mentioned it, and I talked about a few features, and I know Mish Wrestling Soup is sold on it. A few other people signed up on it. So you do have an influence. So they are very interactive with fans out there. I know AEW, I said for about 2 years now, they were going to be the first millennial promotion out there. But if you also notice, too, there are some people out there in podcasting land that they show no love to, pay no attention to. I'm one of them because of my history. And, in the past, I was labeled as toxic, and I totally understand that. In fact, I had a whole bunch of you that were saying to me, dude, why are you not one of these people on NWA The Squared Circle? Because personally, I would love to do it. Don't get me wrong. I would have a ball, but I don't think I'm the type of person that they're looking to have on that show. But it was great to see some, fans and personalities out there giving some analysis. They only had one match because the entire show, for the most part, was like 20, 30 minutes. I think every podcaster that appeared was able to comment about the whole thing, and then they just put little bits and pieces in it. I liked it. I thought it was very good. It's not meant to be a polished show. It's an easy watch. That'd probably be the best way for me to put it. But the match that they featured yesterday was Luke and PJ Hawks versus Tyson Dean and Jeff Lewis. Now, after the match was over, they asked a lot of fans online. They had polls like, who do you think should be able to land a job in NWA? And they let you vote based on the match results. Now, Tyson Dean and Jeff Lewis were brought out there by Nikita Koloff. And I know some out there were a little bit annoyed. Nikita Koloff is not talking as Nikita Koloff. Well, he's been doing that for years and years and years, in interviews and conventions and this and that. Plus, what I think a lot of people, if they would have done a little research as far as the people in that match, I think they may have understood a little bit more, even why Nikita Koloff was there, even why some of the participants were in that match. Now, first off, I want to just mention very quickly Luke Hawks and PJ Hawks. Now, Luke Hawks is 38 years old, and that depresses me, makes me feel old, because I realize now that it is going to blow some people away when you actually think about it like this. When I worked for XPW, that was 18 years ago. 18 years ago. Just think about that for a minute. Somebody I could have met in the arena that might have been pregnant could now have given birth, and I probably could, well, I wouldn't, I'm engaged, but you know where I'm going, and it's legal. It'd be 18 years old already. Just think about it. That's crazy. I remember working for XPW and Altar Boy Luke coming out and fighting Supreme and me sitting at the timekeeper's table and all that. 18 years, I was like, man, did the years fly by. But as you see on the screen right now, that is father and son. We don't know exactly how old PJ Hawks is, but if you never saw him before, you probably did. Because in case you weren't aware, you probably saw PJ Hawks recently because of this. Anybody out there see this on social media over the last week or two? Somebody in a mall. This is PJ Hawks. That's who you saw in NWA yesterday, a Circle Squared. Tell me this isn't crazy. You thought Cody's died? Look at this. That landed perfectly. Perfectly. Cody's dive off the cage, the moonsault today was awesome too. But, you know, if you look at it in slow motion, Cody pretty much just nailed him with the arm, but it was still freaking impressive. That's crazy. I probably wouldn't even be able to jump like, well, I can't even jump off a ladder properly, you know, on my ceiling. Look at that. So they're the father and son team yesterday. So I don't need to give you PJ Hawks' resume. I mean, most of you remember him as Altar Boy Luke. And I saw a few people yesterday, oh, I remember in XPW. Yeah. But Tyson Dean. All right, first I want to just give you a little backdrop on Tyson Dean. Now, you see that? That's the NWA North American Championship. He defeated Tim Storm for that, I think in 2016, July 2016. So this guy ain't like some new kid on the block. And speaking of new kid, I think he is 42 years old, if my math was correctly. So he ain't a spring chicken. Another thing you should know about Tyson Dean is that he is a trainer at Luke Gallows' Good Brothers Dojo Wrestling School. He is currently a trainer for them. So he has been featured in NWA Atlanta, Wrestle America. I put some notes down, AWN and PWA. He also wrestled Grand Metalik on 205 Live in 2018. So that is a little backdrop on Tyson Dean. You know, just so you know, so when people are like, oh, he should land a job, he's a trainer, but he's a damn good wrestler. And again, he was the NWA North American champion. Now, I brought up Nikita Koloff before. This is Jeff Neal. You see Nikita Koloff on the right? Well, for those that don't know, Jeff Neal is a trainer for Nikita Koloff's school. So he's been, not Nikita Koloff, Austin Idol School, Austin Idol School. But he has been praised by Nikita Koloff for many, many years. The name of the school is Universal Wrestling College. We don't know his exact age. He's one of those that never revealed it online, but just by doing the math, he's about 40 years old. Now, let me just give you a little piece of this guy's resume that might blow you away a little bit. This guy wrestling goes back to NWA Wildside. Just think about that. NWA Wildside, NWA Mid-Atlantic. He actually wrestled dark matches for ECW, the WWE's ECW, wrestled a couple of matches for NWA TNA, and he's been wrestling for about 20 years. Very talented wrestler, good on the mic, but, you know, again, he is also a wrestling trainer. But Nikita Koloff has very high praise for him, and that's why he brought them out. Now, yeah, I would love to see Nikita Koloff as maybe a manager for those two guys. But, okay, Brian Long says that he works with Ted DiBiase as well. Yeah, oh no, Nikita Koloff, all right. Forget it. That's why I can't. I appreciate the input, but we're not talking about Nikita Koloff's career. We're talking about the two particular wrestlers in the ring. But again, I would love to see Nikita Koloff as a manager. The problem is that he has moved on from that Nikita Koloff character. So, you know, he's got the ministries. You know, he is still involved in wrestling. But, you know, I know we want to see that character from yesteryear. It's not going to happen. So, but that match yesterday was fine. PJ Hawks and Luke Hawks did, in fact, beat Tyson Dean and Jeff Lewis, and that's the right way to go. But, I wanted to also put in perspective a little bit the ages out there. One is 40, one is 42. Luke Hawks is 38, and his son, I'm assuming is around 20 years old. So, it was not bad yesterday, but props to NWA for doing this. Props to all of the podcasters that got involved. I expect in upcoming episodes to see a couple of familiar faces doing the video podcasting as part of the NWA, the Squared Circle. Probably not me, because like I said, I don't think I fit their mold. Even though this is Don Tony 2.0, everything you know about me before I went to video, forget it, because now you're seeing me raw and straight up, and you could see in my eyes, so many of you out there have said, wow, you went to video and you are nothing like the person that I always portrayed listening. So, but still, great show. I enjoyed it, and I wanted to give it a little bit of love. Now, let's talk a little bit about AEW. Let's talk a little bit about Nyla Rose. I think we should talk about that first. Val Venus, look, I don't think you could blame it on the weed. I think people need to understand. When Sandman complained about women main eventing wrestling, he is an old school guy. He is from back in the day. That doesn't make him a bigot. That doesn't make him a sexist. He's looking at it that it was a male-dominated sport. It is a male soap opera. And I think I'm not trying to defend Sandman, but the only logic I could come out of it, because I disagreed with pretty much most of what he said, I think is that some promotions force the issue with women. And when it feels forced, that's when it's a turnoff. I don't think anybody should feel forced simply because they want to, feel that they're part of the evolution. No, you do what your target audience is. At the end of the day, it's a business. It's an entertainment company. You have different forms of entertainment out there that target mostly women. Trust me, from when my girl watches the Real Ghetto Housewives of Atlanta, I can't stand that show, and I see her chatting on social media with her friends. Did you see what Mimi did, or this, and that did? And I look at the chats, and it's 98% women. That's a type of show that's targeted of women. There are shows out there, I think like The Bachelor, is probably more towards women. The Bachelorette might be the opposite. So there's different groups. And as much as people want women to have an equal playing field in wrestling, fans, revenue, attendance, merchandise, sales, and income is going to dictate that, not agenda. And I've used the example with the NBA. All right. I mean, I don't see people saying, there should be more white basketball players in the NBA. You know why there should be when there should be more white basketball players in the NBA? When they could fucking play as good as their counterparts. If they're talented and they can play, then they'll play. But it's common knowledge that a lot of white guys don't play basketball. They tend to go to football, or they go to baseball, or they just sit on Twitter and, tweet a fake life for 10 years. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. Every product out there has a target audience. So now we go back to Val Venus, okay? I don't think Val Venus hates transgender. I don't think he hates gays. I don't think he has any problem with any of those groups. But he's very ignorant in the sense that, and you could see it as his conversations progress. I don't think he has hate in his heart, but he, as a man, is getting frustrated that a man who transgendered now won a women's title. And I said this a couple of times last week. I didn't hear anybody bitch and complain when China won the Intercontinental title. I didn't see anybody bitch and complain when Nia Jax was, messing around with the men a little bit and brawling a little bit. If there's anybody out there that should be annoyed at Nia Jax winning a women's championship, it should be women. because the women are the ones that are vying for these titles, with the exception of Tessa Blanchard right now for the most part. And the most funniest, weirdest thing I noticed over the last week is that about 98% of the people complaining about Nyla Rose winning the women's championship were men. Men complaining about a women's title. Just let that sink in a little bit. But here's where Val Venus totally screwed up. And here's where, unfortunately, with all due respect, I just got to show everybody, in his own words, why he's pretty ignorant. This was the first tweet that started it all. Val Venus, WWE drops the women's from the women's title. Well, they technically did not do that, but they did it. And like I said a couple of weeks ago, even if WWE does that, so what? It's semantics. It's semantics. If they say the following contest is for the NXT championship and a woman comes out, all right, in 3 seconds, it's been cleared up. Oh, it's for the women's match. I mean, people that are getting triggered on the omission of a word is just foolish. You have too much free time in the day. So then he says, Impact makes a woman the World Heavyweight Champion. AEW makes a man the women's champion. Who the fuck are these insane social justice warriors with pencils and papers ruining the industry he loves so much? So right there, he thinks the industry is being ruined because of that. All right, that's his thinking. Now, again, as he went along and he's being challenged and really ripped apart with this, you know, he's trying to defend himself saying, look, I don't hate this and that, but it just shows the ignorance. It just doesn't show the evolution of what's going on in this world. Wrestling is not being ruined because a transgender won the championship. And I'm going to say something later that nobody will have a comeback to. Trust me when I tell you. It'll be worth it, everyone. It'll be worth it because it's such a common sense remark, two of them. It just, you'll win an argument every time with this. So now, you know, he sets the stage and he's pissed. You could see the frustration in him being pissed. So now Nyla Rose, you know, has the title and he writes this. Fact, the big Valboski is far more tolerant of the trans community. Nyla Rose, in fairness, than the delusional social justice warriors of the freedom of speech. So basically he's saying he's saying almost like, you know, when I say you don't justify bad behavior with other bad behavior, you know, if someone else is an asshole, doesn't mean that you should be an asshole. If you're acting like an asshole, you don't write off and say, well, these other people are just as much assholes. No, you know, you set an example. You keep your mouth shut. Then he writes, I'd make a man out of Nyla Rose in short order. Do I think anything was malicious? No. He probably thought, like, if you're in the ring, I'll make a man out of you. I'll make this. So he probably thought it sounded cool as a wrestling promo, but you already set the tone with your first tweet saying that Tessa is the Impact Heavyweight Champion, Nyla is the Women's Champion for AEW, is ruining wrestling. So there is your problem there. So now he's fallen in a little bit of quicksand. Then he writes this. Oh, that's the same one. Then he writes this. Real men sit back in awe and appreciate a man's work rate. So what does he do? He puts himself over. And Cody did a conference call last week, and he was asked about Val Venus's tweets, and he thinks that Val Venus wrote all that maybe to try to get a job or maybe to try to do a segment with Nyla Rose and get his ass kicked. No, I don't think so. That first tweet, when he feels it's ruining the industry, that's more than just trying to get your name for a cameo or a little payday. And Cody, again, I don't blame Cody for this, and I've hopefully educated you for the last year or so about Cody. Cody is going to be very PC about everything. Somebody asked him in the conference call last week, you know, what about more black singles wrestlers in AEW? Now, seriously, I'm not saying this to sound like a jerk, but seriously, what do you expect Cody to say to that? No, we're good. We're good. Of course he's going to say, yeah, no, we welcome, we love this, we love that. Anything that's going to be embraced. Oh, you know, do you think, well, AEW, you could have a show in California. Well, springtime is nice in California. They're not going to say no. Oh, you should have more, transgender or gay, openly gay and this and that. Yeah, we welcome everybody. AEW is welcome for everybody. You say things that come off the right way. Again, that's why I defended Tessa Blanchard in her conference call. When they asked her about what Booker T said, that, pretty much an Impact was nuts putting the championship on her, she basically said, look, I have a job to do, and I'm doing what Impact Wrestling is paying me to do, and I'm doing it for the best of my ability. You got all these whack job losers online saying, oh, cop out. She dodged it, cop out. What do you expect her to say? Yeah, you're right. Impact Wrestling, you're nuts for putting a belt on me. Why would you do that? That's so stupid. What do you expect her to say? When I had that little issue with Bully Ray, when Tito Ortiz debuted in TNA back then, and that's the only way I could put the time frame because he debuted like 2 weeks after. And, I was criticizing the TNA product, and, he got annoyed me. Everything's all crushed now. But the point is that, he wanted a challenge to go in the ring and, bring him on the show and this and that. Of course he was going to own me. Of course he was going to rip me to pieces, verbally and hopefully not physically. But my point is that I even said it to him privately. I'm like, look, I'm not stupid. Do you think I expect you, even if you agree that Tito Ortiz's debut in TNA was a complete disaster, nobody in TNA is going to say, yeah, you're right, that was freaking horrible. Yeah, that's why when podcasters, and I notice this now and I stay clear away from it, I see podcasters online that will challenge people in wrestling with certain things, negative about their product. And those people, whatever promotion it is, they ignore them. And then you see these podcasters, and I'm not going to ruin a nice Matt Hardy shirt, but I would literally rip this shirt off like Hulkamania and start doing this. I honestly think in the privacy of their own home with no cameras around, they're doing this. They're flexing like, I showed him. He don't have a comeback. He won't even acknowledge it, blah, blah, blah. No, you're an idiot, because they're not going to turn around and say, yeah, you're right. Yeah, my employer, what are they thinking? Nobody would do that. So Cody saying, oh, Val Venus just wants a payday. That's him being nice. So, easy answer. You move on from it. But it's much deeper than this. So now you got Val Venus doing that. Here's where Val Venus just loses it. And here's where everybody out there that has a problem with Nyla Rose as that champion right now, here's where you lose the argument. He says this, and please focus on this. He says, I have nothing against Nyla Rose. I'm against her/him occupying the women's title. There are real women who are pushed aside and forgotten about who should have won scholarships for track and field, powerlifting, other sports, because a few men felt like women. Paint your own narrative. And he brings the example of the 3 female high school athletes that filed a federal lawsuit to block transgender from competing in their competition. Now, keep that thought, because now we get into Rebby Hardy a little bit. And before we do that, here's another one. This is where somebody confronted him about saying making a man out of Nyla Rose. He's like, oh, I just thought it would sound cool. No, it didn't sound cool. But here's where it gets really good. He writes, the factual subjugation of women is ignored by default by leftist morons, yet they scream pro-women's rights. Delusional they are. Now, him talking about transgender in sports, if he wants to make that argument, okay, he can make that argument, but he puts Nyla Rose in there, okay? And, I'm not even going to acknowledge, him accusing the stuff with Jim Ross. But anyway, here's the last part of it. Rebby basically said, hey, Val, your Uber is arriving now, and she's got a picture of a dump truck. And Val Venus writes, Rebby Sky seems to willfully ignore injustice against real women while coddling the feelings of a man and his social justice subjugating real women. And then he brings up the U.S. Olympics, all right? Now, here's where he gets it wrong. First of all, pro wrestling is not the Olympics. pro wrestling is not a sport. It is entertainment. It is sports entertainment. It is predetermined. So his argument that men are competing in women's Olympics and women's sports has nothing to do with pro wrestling, because pro wrestling is an entertainment. It is a form of entertainment. God bless Ring of Honor. I think it was Joe Koff who said it back then. You know, we're not an entertainment company. We're real wrestling, real sport. No, son of a bitch. No, if your match outcomes are predetermined, you are an entertainment company. Your form of entertainment seems more realistic than the flippy and the penis plexes and all this other stuff, but you are an entertainment company. So you cannot take real sports, real Olympics, and then commingle that with an entertainment company. And here is where I shred, and I'm sorry for cursing, but here's why I shred his fucking argument. Okay. You know, Nyla Rose is taking a spot because of the size and the strength and the testosterone, and that's not fair for the women's division. Okay, genius. First of all, what happens if Nyla Rose faces Nia Jax? Look at Nia Jax's physique and look at Nyla Rose. Tell me what the difference is other than maybe genitalia. If Nia Jax is in the ring against Riho and Nia Jax destroys Riho in a match, tell me what's so different about Nyla Rose. And here's the best part. I loved it. I couldn't believe that nobody, no podcast, no nothing, because they're all busy trying to get tweet banged. Here's the best part, my argument. Val, so you're saying that Nyla Rose should be the AEW heavyweight champion? How would you feel if Nyla Rose won the men's heavyweight championship? Something tells me that, so you're saying that Nyla Rose, she shouldn't go for the women's title, but because she's technically a man, she should. Notice how nobody ever thought of that. Nyla Rose is working for an entertainment company. She is portraying a woman. In movies, you might have someone portraying a superhero. We've had white people portray black people portray white people. We've had, men portray women, portray women. You have people, but I mean, it's an entertainment company. Nyla Rose is a beast. Her promo today I thought was great. She was on AEW earlier, and I have the comments right in front of me. And she gets on the microphone, and she says, I got it over here. Here it is. She said, this is justice. Waiting made her hungry, and when she gets hungry, she breaks bitches. And she broke Rio. She represents power, and at the end of the day, this Queen Bee is the queen of the hive in AEW. She'll be a one-time champion because no one will ever beat her. All right? So again, genius, what happens if that was Nia Jax? It's okay because she's got breasts and a vagina? She's probably bigger than Nyla Rose. So this argument that, men with the Olympics, because they're more superior and they're bigger and they're stronger and they're faster. Tell me what the difference is between Nia Jax and Nyla Rose. That's why these people out there really need to find other lines of work to work. I thought he was selling weed legally somewhere. Maybe he sells weed pipes or something. And I'm nothing against Val Venis personally. He entertained the shit out of me over the years. But this argument of taking an entertainment product and trying to compare it to real sports, it just doesn't make sense. Because you've had behemoths like Bertha Faye. You've had behemoths like Awesome Kong. You mean to tell me if Awesome Kong, that's different. You're complaining about genitalia. No argument there. Turn around the next time any of you have an argument with someone, say, tell me what's the difference if Nia Jax wins? And when they start bringing up, Nia Jax was born as a woman. But it's an entertainment company. And then say, okay, so you say Nyla Jax should be the heavyweight champion right now, not the women. Oh, no, she saw it. Just a horrible argument, stupid, dumb, moronic, in my opinion. Look, this is an opinion show. I have to keep stressing that. And that's my opinion. I think what he said is shallow. And what's sad about it, everybody, is if you look over the last 7 days, a lot of people out there were echoing what Val Venus was saying. And sometimes I don't think Cody and AEW put it on Nyla Rose right now because she's transgender. They wanted a monster. I honestly think Awesome Kong was probably going to be in that role because she started to get that push, and then the whole Nightmare Collective thing went downhill, and then she went back to do Glow, and they said, all right, you know what? We're going to focus on Nyla Rose now. So I have no problem with this whatsoever. And, you know, it's funny, too, to see some people out there that try to get involved in the conversation simply because they just want to get attention. They don't like AEW. They can't stand Nyla Rose. They think Nyla Rose sucks on the mic, sucks in the ring. They rip the product almost the entire show week after week after week. No, you're not entitled to be involved in this conversation about giving Nyla Rose the Women's AEW Championship because you don't follow the product. You're not a fan of it. I want to be involved in this. Why? Because you're left out of the conversation. So, and you know what with Val Venus, and you see this with a lot of people online, their first reaction is usually the most honest. Sometimes some people tweet and delete, but delete. But usually the first comment you make is your most honest. Like CM Punk. You see what happened with Miz? And he made that really horrible remark to Miz simply because Miz made a joke on WWE backstage. I don't think CM Punk was so mad at what Miz said. I think what triggered CM Punk was all the women in the background going, ha, 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 ha. That's, I think, what triggered him. And then he deleted it. You know, your split-second reaction is usually your most honest. And, you know, it's a shame. It's a shame. But putting the belt on Nyla Rose now, with what's going on online, you probably extended her run a little bit longer, probably than originally planned, because, you know, the AEW is not going to bow down to, you know, people online. And it's amazing to see so many people online that when someone tweets a suicide hotline, they'll retweet it and they'll, you know, talk about all this stuff. When there's a tragedy, you know, thoughts and prayers, I'm crying right now, I'm aching, I'm hurting. But the first minute they get, when there's a really raw, triggered reaction, they do a 180 and write the garbage that you have read over the last week. And you see the hypocritical personality. I mean, you see, it's funny. The best part is there was, unfortunately, someone who killed themselves very recently, an actress in the UK. And, you know, I didn't know anything about her. I don't remember her name. Maybe someone in the chat could bring it up. But I saw so many people online that were talking about why, you know, you can't just make fun of people and you can't assume that someone has thick skin and this and that and blah, 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 blah. But yet, you know, a lot of those same people were making fun of all the guys going on an AEW cruise, making fun of people that do this. So what you're saying is you should never individually hurt someone's feelings, but you should just do it to a whole group of people. Yeah, that makes it better. That makes it better. So, anyway, you know what? Let's talk about AEW and the show today. And then we'll get back to, you know, some other news, and because we got quite a few things to get into. And I'm sure a lot of you out there don't even know about what Cody said on, was it 11 Alive? I think the show was called, I think I have it here, 11 Alive. Anybody in New York? You remember 11 Alive? Picks. He was on a show, 11 Alive, today. And he thinks in a couple of years he wants to go head-to-head with Raw. Can't believe that hasn't gotten traction yet. So, anyway, let's talk a little bit about AEW tonight. Like I said, we had the opening match, which was the Battle Royal. Oh, and by the way, Scooby-Doo! Scooby-Doo is ringside again! Good for him, man. Why? Because he's not wearing a Brock Lesnar shirt and going, ah! So what? He's wearing a Scooby-Doo. Big deal. I saw people ripping on him. I'm like, I think you're just jealous that the guy actually traveled all the way to Atlanta to watch AEW and got front row tickets, and you're sitting at home, with probably dust everywhere and jit gel napkins on the floor that are so dried up that they're yellow now. How does Don Tony know about that? No comment. So what? The guy said, Scooby-Dooby-Doo. AEW Dark, if anybody watching live right now, if you could get me the matches, but don't put spoilers in the chat, I would greatly appreciate it. I can't do this, the left hand. Some people are like, what are you doing with the left hand? I use both. But I do know that Jimmy Havoc, he's back. Where's he been? He wrestled Marco Stunt on AEW Dark. So, again, I don't know any other matches that went down. Taz and Excalibur were on commentary, and they had Taz do commentary for a match today with Moxley and Jeff Cobb. I loved it. He was getting praise online. I loved it. How many of you, before I even started going video, I said about 3 or 4 months ago, AEW needs to bring in Taz. AEW will eventually put Taz doing commentary on Wednesday nights on a regular basis. Again, nothing against Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone is better suited for interview segments. Tony Schiavone has a lot of other commitments with the Georgia Bulldogs and other outlets out there, commitments. I think Tony Schiavone would be better suited as doing the commentate, like the guest interviewer, and maybe on occasion, but for the most part, Taz needs to fill that role, and AEW really needs soon to have a commentator, one, that is a wise ass, that is the Jesse Ventura, that is the Bobby Heenan, that is the Corey Graves. You need someone to be a little bit sarcastic. You need someone to, just to be the opposite. And you can't, again, I'm just giving opinions. I've given a lot of opinions. So many opinions that, have happened, I think just by coincidence. But you can't just have everybody, how great was that? It was unbelievable. That was beautiful. That was awesome. You need someone to defend Wardlow. You need someone to defend MJF. You need someone to defend Dark Order. And by the way, I'm going to maybe do this next week, or maybe I'll do it Friday. I'm not sure. I got to do it when there's slow news. But I'm going to take the entire AEW roster, and I'm going to one by one just get into everybody, and we'll just have some opinion talk as far as whose stock has risen since AEW started on TV and whose stock has gone down. And I'll tell you, a stock that has gone up is the Dark Order. I actually could tolerate them now. Less is more. During the Battle Royal today, you had Evil Uno at ringside. Didn't see his tits jingling this time around because he was just sitting there. And, the David Koresh guy, and they're talking about how the Exalted One will be there soon. Who knows? Maybe it's Raven. No, I'm just kidding. But the Exalted One will be there soon. Again, I think that would be pretty cool. But once again, we have to also respect Matt Hardy's got to worry about his family first, but we'll see what happens. But from what I was gathering as much notes as I possibly could, as quickly as I could, because I watched both shows, and it's not easy to take notes for both shows. But the teams that were involved in the Battle Royal were Jack Evans and Angelico, Santana and Ortiz, John Silver and Alex Reynolds, SCU, Private Party, Best Friends, SEMA and T-Hawk, The Butcher and the Blade, Jurassic Express, and the Young Bucks. And, early on, we had, again, you had Evil Uno and the Speaker of the Dark Order at ringside, and they were talking about, the Exalted One, and, they were basically focusing on SCU. Christopher Daniels was nowhere to be found. SCU gets eliminated almost immediately, and then they go after, the Dark Order. So it was fine. Match was good. Again, as I said earlier, the eliminations, some of the moves were a little bit over choreographed. Like I said, I one of the things that AEW has to improve on is when you're going to do spots, and I don't want to single out anybody in particular today, but when you do spots and someone is not quick enough to do the spot, it really, just looks goofy when you have the person who's about to take the spot literally get into position and bend down and wait for it. It's just, you know, again, we know wrestling is entertainment and it's choreographed, but during that time, we're not supposed to think about stuff like that. But anyway, there was a fun segment where the Butcher and Luchasaurus were in the middle of the ring, very, very physical with each other, stiff back and forth shots. Butcher was, to me, in my opinion, was a little lame doing these forearms. It just, I don't know. I mean, it was stiff, but, you know, towards the end, you could see he was a little bit tired, and he did kind of like a slap or a clothesline, and Luchasaurus went down, but it was still fun nonetheless. But in the end, it came down to the best friends, Butcher and the Blade, the Young Bucks and Santana Ortiz. At one point, the Butcher threw Trent Beretta over the rope, and Orange Cassidy happened to be there. I wouldn't say it was like Mandy Rose and Otis, but you know that sometimes Trent Beretta is on Orange Cassidy's shoulders or vice versa. So Butcher flips Trent Beretta over the rope. He lands on Orange Cassidy's shoulders and saves him from being eliminated. Crowd loved it. It was a lot of fun. Then there was, you know, the point where Orange Cassidy was at ringside. Bunny comes up to him, kind of like, you know, showing that she might be interested in him, and she just kicks him in the nuts. Or as I said, the pits, the orange pits. Now, because of that, he was not in position to catch Trent Beretta again, and as a result, Trent Beretta was eliminated. So now we're down to the three. We had Nick Jackson get eliminated. Butcher got eliminated. And then it really came down to Matt Jackson and Santana and Ortiz. It was sloppy a little bit here and there. Sammy Guevara was at ringside. My God, Sammy Guevara, I thought he was dead. And I'm not saying that, you know, literally. He took a super kick that visually, in my opinion, later on when Moxley took on Jeff Cobb, Guevara should have just stood in the back. They should have sold that he was just out. After that super kick that he took, it was just the way it came off on TV. They should have left him in the back. It just was beautiful the way that went down. But it ends up that Matt Jackson does eliminate Santana Ortiz, a lot of super kicks. It was fine. And then we now know that the Young Bucks will be challenging for the tag titles at Revolution. I've been saying all along it was going to be Young Bucks, Omega, and Page. And, you know, as you saw, they defeated the Lucha Brothers later on in the night. I know I'm going a little bit back and forth, but I'll mention it now. The match that the Lucha Brothers had with Hangman Page and Kenny Omega was just outstanding. And again, if I'm going to criticize anything with tonight, more than anything, it's once again the referee. Just make it no DQ. I mean, that just resolves it. But, you know, now, you know, I've been saying that the referee does this. He just keeps doing that. Now he looks like he's freezing or he's having seizures. Now, I don't want to ruin my glasses. Now when he does some moves, he does this. It just, I don't like it. I don't like it. And then there's parts where he's actually trying to get somebody out of the ring. He'll count one, and then he'll leave the person go over the other side. I just, you know, just make it no DQ. Fans would have no problem with that. But again, it's Lucha rules, Lucha Brothers rules, as Jericho had talked about in the past. But still, even with that refereeing tonight, probably my favorite tag team match of 2020 so far. It just blew the roof off the building. I mean, when Rey Fenix went to the middle of the top rope and did that Hurricane on to Kenny Omega outside the ring, and then Hangman Page does the moonsault to the outside of the ring. I mean, the crowd just went bananas. I think they did a holy shit chant at that. There was another point during the match where Pentagon, Hangman Page was sort of laid out on the mat, and Pentagon runs across Hangman Page's back and then hits a Canadian Destroyer onto Kenny Omega. they just have awesome chemistry. And I know, look, you've heard me say many times, video game rules. AEW in many matches is video game rules. It's not so much about storyline and psychology sometimes. And yes, they want to be storyline driven as well. But as I said earlier, I'll say it again now. I don't think AEW ever envisioned that Hangman Page would be this over with the crowd, especially after the match. He's drinking beers with everyone. Hangman Page is one of AEW's, the biggest stars there, and the fans really enjoy him. And sure, he might end up being an awesome heel if he turns. But the way everything is right now, you don't have too many wrestlers that are that interactive with the fans, and the fans love the Cowboy shit. So I don't know if they really, I think they should reconsider turning him at Revolution. Maybe they don't. And like I said, wouldn't it be something if it ends up that Kenny Omega is the one to turn? But if you pay attention to the commentary closely, and they talk about how everybody's part of the elite, it's Hangman Page is the one that kind of shies away from it. So, changing that around would not sort of make sense right now. My God, they stopped the Nightmare Collective, and because Brandy's at ringside showing support for her husband, people are ripping it even tonight. Oh, Brandy's there as if the Nightmare Collective never happened. Well, so what? So what? So you'd rather have a shitty angle continue? What do you expect? What do you want them to do? You want them to call you up and say, listen, you were right. This storyline sucks and I'm sorry. What do you expect them to do? Sometimes people get written off or things get written off, even in soap operas. Some people just disappear for whatever reason. Sometimes it's contract dispute. So anyway, let's finish up the AEW recap because I've already gone about an hour and 6 minutes, and we definitely want to start trimming these down a little bit, especially if you expect me to come back Friday to do a small edition of the Don Tony Show. We obviously need to have some topics of discussion Friday. But again, in the end, you had Page and Omega get the win. Before the match was over, they had an inadvertent shot by Hangman Page onto Kenny Omega. Hangman Page rolls outside the ring. We had Rey Fenix dive outside the ring on Hangman Page. Kenny Omega gets the upper hand, hits the Snapdragon suplex on Pentagon Jr., then hits the Tiger Driver onto Rey Fenix. But only gets a 2 count. Crowd is going nuts. But in the end, they get the win. The Young Bucks come out. They're helping Kenny Omega up a little bit. Originally, Kenny Omega's like, I don't need anybody's help. Then he embraced it. Hangman Page just gets out of the ring and just celebrates with the fans. And so that's what we got at Revolution. They reminded us next week that Pac and Kenny Omega could have a 30-minute Iron Man match. Also, they announced next week the Butcher and the Blade versus Best Friends. Chris Statlander taking on Shana. It's funny. They're doing this whole Galaxy thing with Chris Statlander. And a gear obviously goes along with it. And this whole touching the nose of people, which, look, it's just goofy. It's not like she's touching the person's nose and the person just falls on the floor. It's more of like, what the fuck you doing? When she did that to Nyla Rose, or Nyla Rose thought she was going to do it to her nose and instead touches the title, it's not a big deal. It's like E.T., playing with the finger. Big deal. But there was one part of the match that was really funny, and it was near the beginning. They had Britt Baker on commentary. And again, she's done a lot better with the promos. They're really pushing the insults to Tony Schiavone. This time around, Tony Schiavone's got like a Starbucks coffee cup with his face on it, which was pretty funny. I actually want one of those. But, the commentary did not help Chris Statlander at all. Did not help Shana at all. And at the beginning of the match, it was hilarious because Jim Ross says to Schiavone, Britt Baker, and Excalibur, explain this Space Galaxy stuff to me with Chris Statlander. And Schiavone's like, I don't know. And Britt Baker's like, I don't know. And Jim Ross is like, I don't know. And then Excalibur's coming up with this stuff that a ship crashed on Area 51 and blah, 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 blah. Jim Ross is like, fuck it. Enough. I don't even want to hear it. I mean, it just, I don't know. It was pretty goofy. Match was fine. A little sloppy, but, look, a lot of women's matches in WWE and NXT can get sloppy at times too, but it was not bad at all. I think in the end, there was no, argument. I think everybody pretty much expected Chris Statlander to get this win. I think, what is she now, 1-1, and all of a sudden she's a number 2 contender. But what you may, and again, maybe this aired on TV, I don't know. I got up a few times, and at one point I had to come up here and start preparing for the show because I had a lot of stuff to put together for all you. But they did a segment, and I saw it on social media, where Shauna was in the back, and Britt Baker attacks her and puts that lock on her, Shauna's jaw. And she gets in front of the camera and says, Shauna, it's time for your 6-month checkup, which I thought was pretty funny. Was that on TV, everyone? I don't know if it was. Again, I didn't even know the toy thing was on. But, that it was a funny segment. And if it didn't air on TV, go on social media, you'll see it on there. Taz comes out, does commentary for the Jon Moxley, Jeff Cobb match. A lot of people may not know that Jeff Cobb and Jon Moxley fought last year at New Japan's G1 Climax. I think it was day 4. And it was a great match. And that match is online if you want to go see it. This match was very physical, a lot of brawling outside the ring, a lot of, power moves by Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb has amazing cardio. And this guy can go and go and go. For his size, he's phenomenal. This is not the last you will see Jeff Cobb in AEW. But it was a very competitive match. At some points, Jon Moxley was getting his ass handed to him. You had the Inner Circle sitting at ringside. At one point, Jericho, I think, whipped Moxley with a belt once or twice. But in the end, we had Moxley get the quick roll-up win. After that, the Inner Circle hit the ring. They're all beating on Moxley. Dustin Rhodes comes out. And again, this is yours truly nitpicking a little bit. You go back and you watch it, you'll see what I'm talking about. What I don't like is when Dustin Rhodes hits the ring, he punches Sammy Guevara, and Jeff Cobb is just standing there. Jake Hager is just standing there. So after Sammy Guevara gets it, then all of a sudden Jake Hager goes up to Dustin, he gets hit. Then all of a sudden Jeff Cobb, hits him. And again, I could see, and some wrestlers do this well, if they're in the back corner and, one of their fellow partners is getting beat up right now, they'll walk up very slowly and they'll be like, and then they get attacked. But tonight, you literally saw people standing in the corner as their fellow wrestlers were getting attacked. And to me, it just didn't look all that good. Lights go out. They come back on. Darby Allin is up the rampway. Insane pop. I've been saying for about 2 months now, AEW needs a secondary title. That guy would be ideal for some type of a championship in AEW. Not a top championship because he still has a ways to go, but he is extremely over with the crowd. He skates down to ringside, and once again, he hits the ring, and he attacks with the skateboard. He hits, one person, and the others are just standing there watching it, and especially Jeff Cobb. And, even, what, I'll even bring this up, too. I wasn't going to bring it up, but I'll bring it up because I just thought about it, too. Towards the end of the tag team battle royal, at one point, you had the Young Bucks and Santana Ortiz and the Butcher in the ring. And if you go back and you watch when those 5 were left in the match, you had the Young Bucks battling Santana and Ortiz, and the Butcher is just standing in the corner like, which way do I go, George? Which way do I go? Which way do I go, George? He's just standing there like he doesn't know what the fuck to do. And I just thought that was a little dumb. But, you know, that's the only negative thing happens when you have an odd number of people in that ring. You know, he's just standing there like, it's not like he was just standing there and just watching and enjoying it. That's different. But he was just standing there like, which way should I go? Which way should I go? I really like it. So, but anyway, so Darby Allin, I wonder if he's going to team up with Moxley next week. I don't know who he faces. Maybe they do a 6-man. Maybe they do Moxley and Dustin and Darby versus, I don't know, maybe Jericho, Hager, and Guevara. I don't know. You know, they want to tease a little bit of that brawling with Jericho and Moxley. They have to have a little bit more brawling leading into Revolution. But it was a lot of fun. And the only thing really left to talk about is the cage match. Cody versus Wardlow. Arn Anderson comes out with Brandy looking smoking. And, you know, Cody's from Atlanta, so obviously a hometown boy was going to get an insane pop. You know, you have MJF outside the cage. The cage was very impressive. You could not escape the cage. You could only win by a pin or submission. And, you know, the cage match was what it was, very physical on Wardlow's part, you know, basically tossing around Cody like a salad. Cody gets busted open, and we had a little bit of, you know, interaction animation ringside with MJF. Even Arn Anderson at one point tossed MJF into, like, the first row, which was, you know, it was fine. But, you know, in the end, if you noticed, you know, you're paying attention to the clock, AEW really doesn't have overruns. NXT, I don't know if anybody's noticed this, but USA Network is now advertising Miz and Mrs. on Wednesdays at 10:05. So if you remember, I said 2-3 months ago that the 11, 12, 13-minute overrun that NXT was doing was going to get cut down significantly. Now it's 5 minutes. They advertise Miz and Mrs. at 10:05. So just so everybody knows. Messenger of Death does not like what I'm doing. Tells me to go to bed. You go to bed, Messenger. You go to bed. Here's a message. Go to bed. Go to sleep. Go to sleep. Just kidding. I appreciate everybody that tunes in, everybody. Much love. Seriously. Thank you. Really. And thank you for helping me surpass 7,000 subscribers. We passed 7,000. It's just a month. And I think we passed 7,100 today. So, you know, I was thinking 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2020. Now people are telling me that they bet I get 10,000 by June. It's amazing. It's awesome, you know. And we're just starting. Wait till you see a couple of months from now how big this channel gets. Could be other shows on here, other content. Could have a couple of new hosts on there. Could have really blow this up, man. You know, I appreciate everybody that tunes in Monday nights, but, you know, I'm not trying to downplay that show, but let me say it like this. If you ever went to a restaurant and you would go there because you thought that, oh my God, you got to have the hanger steak. If you go to this restaurant, just have the hanger steak. Well, consider what I'm doing right now. And Monday night was that restaurant where you would go just for the hanger steak. Then what happens, we're going to go a little bit of renovations. Now, yours truly, when you go to that restaurant, you could choose from the hanger steak, the filet mignon, the lobster, this, and that. So it'd be like 5-6 different main courses. And then this way, you know, there's so much more variety. So, yeah, Brian, new hosts. I have a few things on the horizon. You know, the format with Monday will remain as it is. You know, I'll be on here doing video. My co-hosts will be here doing audio. But there's going to be some new shows coming with some different hosts. And there's going to be some new content. And not all of it's going to be wrestling. So just stay tuned because, like I said, I need about 2 months here to really get used to everything going on. I don't know what the hell happened early with this battery backup thing. I don't know. I swear on my mother, I will never do any shows ever again. I have this battery backup thing down here for about 3 years. I was using it in a different room before I set this up for video. And in 3 years, this is the first time that I ever heard an alarm go off. I don't know why. It was just really, really weird. It's just that was weird. It really, right as soon as and it's not like I turned all this power on and maybe it was just using too much juice. So I don't want to give away what's going to be planned in the future, but it's going to be big. It's going to be big. So plus we got to also spread it out too, because I do have a regular job that I cannot screw with. Plus I have a relationship I can't screw with either. So things will be spread out really nicely, but trust me, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be very interactive, and we'll see where it goes. But getting back to the cage match. Again, the story with the cage was Cody, getting tossed around by Wardlow. Wardlow looked fine. At one point, because, the cage does have holes in the wiring, MJF passes the ring to Wardlow. Wardlow, very dramatically puts the ring on. At one point, I thought he was going to put on his middle finger. And I'm like, wait a minute. That ring could fit on your middle finger? But he puts the ring on. And, everybody sees that he's going to use it on Cody. But then, ultimately, Cody gets the upper hand. And, like I said, I kind of wish the cage match had an extra 5 minutes in it. Because towards the end, I'm looking at the clock, and it's 9:57. And I'm like, all right, here comes the 9:59, if anybody knows what I'm talking about. And, you could see that they started to rush the end. At one point, MJF climbed the ring post and, parted the cage, which really wouldn't have done anything, but he climbed it a little bit, and Brandy whacks him in the ass with the chair. At one point, it looked like it hurt because MJF put his hand behind him to, because he got hit in the back, and then Brandy whacked him again while his hand, I think, was behind there. I said earlier, Cody was busted open, and he gets the upper hand on Wardlow, and we're looking at the time, and it's now 9:58, and he climbs the top of the cage and does a very impressive moonsault. Like I said, if you watch it again closely, he did miss Wardlow quite a bit. Got him with the arm, but still enough momentum that it was fine. He gets the pin. MJF is looking all shocked and surprised. He got tossed over the guardrail by Arn Anderson. And, Brandy comes in to check on her husband. And you see MJF in the rampway looking very, very concerned. And that's how they went off the air. It was fine. Again, for me, it was an awesome episode of AEW. Not every AEW episode can feel like a pay-per-view. It's a weekly episodic TV show. So it's not going to be pay-per-view quality, but from 8 to 10, it entertained me quite a bit. Now, with NXT, again, I'm sorry for anybody out there that gets offended by this. NXT, I watch closely as much as I do with AEW. But it's just not a lot of things that go down in NXT in their 2 hours. The NXT opened up with the Undisputed Era in the ring. They're talking about what happened at TakeOver. And then Roderick Strong is talking about how he's going to destroy Dream. And Velveteen Dream's logo goes on the screen, and you hear Velveteen Dream's voice, and he's talking about what he's going to do later to Strong. And he's talking about Marina Shafir, his wife. And basically, Velveteen Dream challenges Roderick Strong to leave your boys at home. Basically, leave the Undisputed Era in the back. Later on, we learn that, we see the promo backstage where Roderick Strong tells Undisputed Era, don't come out. I got this. I need to do this for myself. Fine. Jordan Devlin retains the Cruiserweight Championship, defeating Lio Rush. Excellent match. One spot that I just looked really, really beautiful. Jordan Devlin, I mean, you've seen many times over the years where a wrestler will be straddle on the top rope, and then you'll see like Rey Mysterio or someone else do a Hurricane Rana on the top rope, and then, pin their opponent. This time around, you had Jordan Devlin facing the other side of the ring, facing the crowd on the top rope, and Lio Rush hit that move. Then he does kind of like that Tajiri snap where he goes to the rope and then snaps back. But this time he falls in between the rope, snaps back and hits almost like a stunner on Jordan Devlin. By the way, there is a fabulous interview online with Leo Rush right now. He did an interview with Brian Fritz of the Sporting News, and he talks about how, he really thought that he was done with WWE back then, and he talked about, what went down with WWE and NXT. It's a wonderful interview if you really want to go check it out. I've been very high on Leo Rush for quite some time now, and it was a phenomenal match. But in the end, Jordan Devlin retains, and we're now already at 8:30. So 1/4 of NXT is already done. And I pointed out earlier, you look at AEW side, the amount of what went down in that same time frame, NXT is taking, spreading things out more, which is fine. But again, I can't really, invent or add things that just aren't there. You have a backstage segment with Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. Basically, you have Gonzalez saying that she's got Dakota Kai's back. Dakota Kai says she's got her back, vice versa, back and forth. They're talking about Tegan Nox. William Regal enters the picture, and he says that in 2 weeks, Dakota Kai and Tegan Nox will fight in a cage, and there will be no one at ringside. Everybody's barred at ringside. So we got that to look forward to in 2 weeks. No outside interference, which definitely something I think will be fun to see. Next, we have Austin Theory come out, expecting that he's going to have a match. Before his opponent is announced, Tommaso Ciampa's music hits. He comes out to the ring. Some mild Daddy's Home chants. And by the way, shout out to Andrew914. He went to NXT tonight, sat front row, and sent me so many awesome pictures. For some reason, Twitter would not let me copy or save any of them. I could have done some screenshots a different way, but I had so much working on to plan for these shows, I didn't have time to do it. So, but some really awesome fun. I know he's going to put a lot of them on Twitter, and I'll definitely retweet some of them, but some really nice shots. But Ciampa comes out to ringside, some mild Daddy's Home chants, and Austin Theory is like not getting in his face, but getting near him, and Ciampa's like, not tonight. And he's threatening Theory, and he's like, I'm telling you, not tonight. So Theory backs off, but Theory doesn't leave the ring. He just goes in the corner. And Ciampa's talking about what happened at TakeOver, that he was focused so much on Adam Cole that he didn't pay attention to his surroundings. He didn't pay attention to his instinct. And he said that in the end, he is going to, I guess you could say, destroy Gargano, because he said that NXT cannot remain. There cannot be a Gargano in NXT. So now I know a lot of people are immediately wondering, are we going to get a loser leaves NXT match between Gargano and Ciampa? There was a lot of rumors for a while that Gargano was going to be coming to the main roster. Ciampa does not want to come to the main roster. He's happy in NXT. So makes me wonder if that will end up happening. But after Ciampa is finished with his promo, kind of Austin Theory is getting on his nerves again. He lays out Theory, beats him down a little bit more, leaves the ring. All right, fine. Next, we have Raul Mendoza. And by the way, I guess I could bring this up right now for anybody that is interested. For you Lucha Underground fans out there. You remember this guy, King Cuerno? Lucha Underground? Well, he has been signed with the WWE for, I don't know, we say maybe 6 months, 7 months. Unfortunately, could not debut until this weekend because he had injury. But he is now wrestling in NXT under his real name, Jorge Bali. And this weekend in Florida, he teamed up with Raul Mendoza, and they defeated Pretty Deadly, which is Lewis Howley and Sam Stoker. So I tell you, I don't know if any of you out there have ever seen the team of Pretty Deadly, but if these guys could get a little bit more under their belt, I mean, look, I'm a heterosexual guy, but you see these two guys on the main roster. I mean, they just have that model look that you just want to see them get the shit knocked out of them. That is the NXT tag team of Pretty Deadly. So I just figured I'd share that with everybody. Maybe you never saw them before. But anyway, so King Cuerno as Jorge Bali, he teamed up with Raul Mendoza over the weekend. And tonight on NXT, we have Raul Mendoza team up with Joaquin Wilde, who he recently wrestled against, and they lost to the Grizzled Young Veterans. I've said this before. My mood has not changed on it. Grizzled Young Veterans are fine, but I don't have that connection to them yet. I know they're from the UK. I know they're cutting promos, dissing America and US fans and everything, but I'm just not into the Grizzled Young Veterans. That's just me. So watching this match and this match going on, not an extreme amount of time, but long enough, I just couldn't get into it. But they get the win, and they cut a promo that they're looking for tag team gold. Now, next we have Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne hit the ring. They're cutting a promo. Awesome chemistry. It's cool to see fans that don't follow NXT on a regular basis really just enjoying Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne as that oddball tag team. You and I, who have watched NXT week after week after week, we've seen this building for a long time. Before the Dusty Class and everything else. You see some in the wrestling podcast and the website land this weekend, and they're acting like they never saw Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle before, yet they say they watch NXT on a regular basis. So I didn't get that. But for fans out there that may not have paid too much attention to NXT, whether they're AEW fans or maybe just don't watch wrestling on a Wednesday night, it's cool to see how much they're gelling right now. And they made the right decision putting the tag belts on them. By the way, for those that don't know, I did Sunday an NXT TakeOver Portland pay-per-view recap. It went about 90 minutes. It is online. So if you realize that there's no Portland TakeOver discussion today, I did a full recap of it. So make sure you go check that out. But Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne, they're interrupted by Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. They end up having a match, and Riddle and Dunne get the win. It was actually pretty quick, I would say, but a real fun match. Dunne and Riddle are just awesome. After the match is over, they're in the crowd. They're celebrating with the crowd. Fans are eating it up. Again, I have given my criticism to Matt Riddle and the Phenomenal. Love that tag team. Love it. Next, we get that segment where the Undisputed Era in the back. Pep talk. Roderick Strong wants to do this on his own. Keithley enters the ring. They show clips of his appearance on WWE Backstage, which was great. If you haven't seen it and you're a big fan of Keithley, go out of your way to see it. Just really gives that extra, reason to like this guy outside the ring as well. Just a real classy guy. I've been saying for 8-9 months now, Keithley is my favorite wrestler in NXT. It hasn't changed at all. But he ends up having a match with Conan Reeves. Total squash. The pounce, the jackhammer, done 1, 2, 3. Dominic Dijakovic comes out. He says he's not done with Keith Lee, and he's not ready to move on yet. And he's in fighting forever, so it looks like we may have another match in store for those two guys, which a lot of you pointed out on my YouTube clip when I talked about this. And that's awesome because you all are seeing that. Those two guys have never had a bad match. Them together, I wouldn't put it on the level of Rey Mysterio, Hoovy, or Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, or, just two guys that just kill it with each other. But for their size, again, and I said this on the pay-per-view recap, I'm not into ratings of matches like Meltzer and a lot of others out there. But I don't know how many matches with two guys of that size that could have a match like that. And there has to be, you can't look at those high-flying moves, and because they're 300-plus pounds, if it's a little messier than somebody who's half the size, that's why you take a point off. I mean, I'm not saying it was a 5-star match, but For their size, I don't know how you could get any better than that, to be honest with you. But next we had Chelsea Green with Robert Stone in her corner. She gets her first win on NXT TV, and she defeats Kayden Carter. Now, during this match, it was a quick match, but during the match, Bianca Belair comes out. And for everyone out there that doesn't know this, Rhea Ripley did an interview. Rhea Ripley said that she would love to have Bianca Belair added to the WrestleMania main event. I agree, too. I brought this up a few times already the last couple of weeks. I was a little disappointed in how WWE handled Bianca Belair having Charlotte confront Rhea Ripley or vice versa on TV before Bianca Belair's match. But that might have ended up being a blessing in disguise because a lot of extra attention was put Bianca Belair's way. Now, WWE is very high on Bianca Belair. You could see her performance in a Royal Rumble. Enough said. But now, we had Bianca Belair come out and she challenges Charlotte to a match. If you remember last week, I said, I think we might see Bianca Belair versus Charlotte before WrestleMania. May happen next week. And she says, okay, now the match could continue. She interrupted the match to make that challenge, and then they continued the match. Match ended almost immediately after we had Robert Stone trip up Kayden Carter. Chelsea Green gets the win, her first win on NXT TV. They announced next week Finn Balor will be back. They announced Ciampa versus Austin Theory next week. And then we have the main event, Roderick Strong versus Velveteen Dream. Excellent match. Went quite a bit. I don't know if anybody else out there felt this, but it didn't feel the heat that I expected it to be. Especially after the match was over, Velveteen Dream, he hit two of the Dream Valley drivers onto Roderick Strong. Undisputed Era ends up coming out towards the end anyway. Velveteen Dream, instead of diving onto Roderick Strong and try to get the win, he dives on the outside, taking out part of the Undisputed Era. But in the end, we had Roderick Strong get the win. And then Undisputed Era attacked Velveteen Dream. But Roderick Strong hit like one move, and then they're just standing over him. Now, again, before anybody says anything, it was 10:05, so they had to go off the air. But it felt like there was some heat missing. I mean, my God. Velveteen Dream's been wearing Marina Shafir's and Roderick Strong's family on his tights. During this match, Velveteen Dream takes off the tights he was wearing to reveal not only Marina Shafir's face on the front, but on the back. And you would think that he would have been crucified. Again, maybe a little bit off with the timing of the match, but it just felt like during the match, it felt like a competition for a title, not to beat the shit out of someone who is trying to include your family in on the storyline. Roderick Strong is extremely talented, Velveteen Dream as well, and the match was excellent. Just felt like some of that heat was not there. But again, very solid show. I can't spend the same amount of time because I didn't leave anything out for the most part. But, both a fun match. Now, last week with the ratings, it seemed like the ratings are starting to get a little bit closer. AEW did win once again, and as I said on Sunday, I want AEW fans to be prepared for this. NXT will likely win some of the ratings leading up into WrestleMania. It happened leading into Survivor Series. As the main roster interacts with NXT a little more, you're going to see more interest. It's not, let me say it like this, it's not that AEW fans are now tuning out for NXT. I think you're going to get some fans that don't watch wrestling on Wednesdays that are going to watch NXT because of the carryover. So you will see NXT win a couple of, maybe 1-2 weeks leading into Mania. But I think once Mania is over, it'll probably go back to the status quo of what it is right now. But in my opinion, there's no doubt in my mind AEW extends their ratings win as far as the viewership goes. Last week, the rating was close. I thought I had it in front of me, but I apparently don't. Oh, no, I do have it in front of me. AEW Dynamite did 817,000 last week. NXT did 757, which I think was down for both shows last week. I think this week AEW Dynamite jumps up to about 905,000 viewers. Don't give me this Democratic debate shit. I think it goes up. Well, I'll go even. I'll go 899. All right, I'll go 899 for AEW Dynamite, and I say NXT stays around 760. No, I'll say 775. All right. I think, it's going to be a bigger margin this week. Just AEW from beginning to end just entertain me more. Again, it's sports entertainment. And because of Monday and Friday night, it's more storyline driven. It's more about characters and not just pure wrestling. If pure wrestling would pop crazy ratings, Ring of Honor at some point in the last 15 plus years would have had much bigger viewership on television, and they haven't. So anyway, speaking of Ring of Honor, I might as well throw this out there now. They're going to have their 18th anniversary pay-per-view March 13th in Las Vegas. They announced Jonathan Gresham and Jay Lethal taking on Flip Gordon and Marty Scurll. There's a couple other matches announced. Adam Brooks versus Slex. I'm going to give everybody a little insight on those two wrestlers next week. And you have Dragon Lee versus Bandito. So we're still a little ways away, so we'll have plenty of time to plug that a little bit. Now, because of the coronavirus, we have some things going down in Japan as far as wrestling goes. Stardom has canceled their events from February 20th to May 14th. Now, that's only 3 weeks. All right, people need to understand. It's not like Stardom was selling out 20,000-seat arenas, and this is going to be an unbelievable financial hit. This may, it's 3 weeks. They're playing it safe. The March 8th show at Korakuen Hall is still going to go down, but they're not going to let any fans in the building. It's going to be an empty arena event. And from what I understand, I think we might be able to see this online for free. So, in that area of the world, the coronavirus is 1,000 times more serious than it is over here. So they have to take some extremely safe precautions. And the last thing you want to do is have a building, and have just 1 or 2 people infected. And, that just starts the chain reaction. So the only way you nip this in the bud is you have to isolate everybody who is struck with it. And it's not that easy. And yeah, I know about the controversy with Jericho's recent podcast and the coronavirus. I'm not going to go there with it. Jericho's had a great podcast, and he talks about a lot of different topics, and they decided to talk about this. And the way it's being teased, it's very controversial. My honest reaction to it is, if you don't like it, if it sounds outrageous, don't watch it. Don't listen to it. Nobody's pulling anybody's arm. Like I said, when you have podcasters out there that say, oh, I rip AEW because I have to cover it because I'm a blogger or I'm a podcaster. Well, geniuses, Mrs. and Mr. Geniuses out there, explain to me why you don't watch MLW, why you don't watch Impact Wrestling, why you don't watch New Japan, why you don't watch this promotion. Isn't that the same thing? No, it's just that more people talk about AEW, so they need this. So anyway, speaking of AEW, just going back and forth a little bit, they're going to have Double or Nothing at the MGM Grand Garden Arena like last time. Tickets are going to go on sale this Friday at 12 noon Eastern. Start $25, which is not bad. Is Mish in right here right now? If Mish is here, what's up, my friend? I hope everything is starting to get organized with you with the move. We're going to try, we expect to do an episode of Breakfast Soup this weekend on Patreon. Schedule for this week, Friday, I'll be here for the Don Tony Show, online on YouTube at 10:15 p.m. Eastern. I should be on Sunday with Mish doing Breakfast Soup. If there's any equipment issues and he can't come on, then maybe we'll, postpone it for Monday or Tuesday, but you're definitely going to get an episode no matter what. So, but shout out to him. I think you'll see his ugly mug, and I say that with love, in the very near future on the net. That's all I'll say. I don't want to go any further with that, but it's a good thing. So, also, they're going to have Dynamite that same week. Well, right after the pay-per-view on Wednesday in the same building. Those tickets also go on sale this Friday. I don't know what kind of package deals they're offering to go to the pay-per-view and Dynamite. I don't know if they are. But just keep in mind, you would have to stay in that area unless you're going to fly back home and then fly back on that Wednesday. So, it's not going to be easy for people to stay 5 days in Nevada if you don't live in that neck of the woods. So, a little controversy online. We have WrestleCon coming up, WrestleMania weekend. There are some AEW talent scheduled for WrestleCon. And over the weekend, AEW pulled Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin from the WrestleCon appearances. Now, it's WrestleMania weekend. It's not C2E2, which is next week. So, I can't make any sense of it right now. I'm trying to get some information for you. My immediate thinking is, all right, maybe Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara are going to be, they just had that whole storyline that's going to continue now, and they're probably going to brawl at Revolution. So maybe that feud continues, and they maybe will set up something, or maybe they're going to have to be in an event that weekend. But it's just interesting that they're having a feud with each other. They were both pulled. So that may have something to do with it as well. I'm not sure. I like to research things before reporting it. I've said since 1997, I don't want to be first. I want to be right. Case in point, I talked about Tainara Conti. You had everybody last week saying, she walked out. She quit. She's not coming back. And I was like, I actually heard a little bit different. She was unhappy, but I think some people are blowing it out of proportion. Well, she returned last week. And as you could see on the screen, that's what she was wearing. She's got a shirt that says unreleased. She's got handcuffs because she feels like she's being handcuffed. And they're playing, off of some real life situation. But she is back in NXT. And again, see, that's why I like to wait before bringing up certain things, because people rush because they want to get their hand job online. They want to come off, I'm first. And you're usually wrong. So anyway, like I said earlier, Cody had the conference call. Nothing earth-shattering coming out of it. I think the biggest buzz really was about the Val Venis stuff and Nyla Rose. But he did an interview earlier today, I believe, in Atlanta to hype up tonight's episode of Dynamite. And during his appearance on 11 Alive, and every time I think it, I think here in New York, older New Yorkers will appreciate why I say it. Picks. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go on YouTube, type in 11 Alive New York or WPIX New York, and just type in PIX. And you'll see me as a kid. You won't see me as a kid, but you'll see what we used to watch on TV as a kid. They used to have this video game. And what would happen is you would call a phone number, and they put your voice on TV, and it would be like a game that would, things would go on the screen, and in the phone you would yell "Picks," and then somebody would hear you say that, and then they would hit a button, and then if you got enough points, you won a prize or something. And my God, all the freaking little kids, those bastards, would come on, and it was funny hearing them lose. Even I was a kid at that time, and I rooted for them to lose. And then you had these people because it would come out randomly, and you'd go, "Picks. And then some kids thought they were slick. They would do this, picks, and they'd still lose. I loved it. So anyway, he's on 11 Alive earlier today, and he says, he knew exactly what he was saying. He says, and I quote, "I'm going to say something controversial. And I don't mean it to be, but this always happens anytime I'm interviewed for an extended period of time. I would like the company in 5 years to be on a different night and competing in the same fashion they are. Not that he doesn't love Wednesday nights, but he feels that they have real players, and he looks at the data, and he thinks that they would do great on another night. And they're trying to, they're playing semantics with words, and the host kind of knows where they're going with it. And basically, Brandy feeds into it a little bit. And they pretty much said they think in a couple of years, 5 years, they could possibly go head to head with Monday Night Raw. Again, I don't know why that's not a bigger story right now. And look, I think Cody is right for saying that. That's confidence. This isn't like TNA and Dixie when they had that one night that they had awesome ratings and they thought they could just stay on Monday nights, and they got destroyed. I mean, they were just, that's it. And that was probably one of the worst decisions that Dixie Carter ever did with TNA at the time. Cody's not, and Khan and TNT's not going to make that same mistake. If the statistics, and keep in mind, this is 5 years, he's saying, so a lot can happen in 5 years. My God, I said it a couple of weeks ago. Would not surprise me in the next 5 years if WWE is sold, or somebody buys a majority interest in it, or buys almost 50% of WWE. 5 years from now, wrestling could look a hell of a lot different than it does now. And if WWE ends up getting sold or something happens disastrous to them, then you could say all you want. We would think we would go great against it. Yeah, when you know that somebody's terminal or having big problems, then that's when, I kick your ass. I kick your ass. So, let's see what else. I didn't mention this on Sunday. Wasn't aware of it because I do my recaps right after these shows are over. Monday, I do it within 10 minutes of Raw ending. Tonight, I do it within 10 minutes of NXT and AEW going off the air. Pay-per-views, 10 minutes after. Friday, Don and Tony show, 10 minutes after. So I don't get that luxury of doing it on a different day during the week. There's a lot of podcasters out there that have that luxury. That's fine. This is my choice. But Sunday night after I did the show, I saw everything about Cathy Kelly. Cathy Kelly is gone from the WWE. She gave her notice. If you go on her website, you could get an idea of what she wants to pursue. Just an absolute, I don't know her personally, but, when you talk about some people in wrestling, sure, she didn't wrestle, but you talk about some people in wrestling that you're almost jealous at the level of sunshine that just surrounds people. I don't get jealous at that. I have sunshine, with my significant other. But Cathy Kelly, I can't ever think of a time that anybody ever had any controversy with her. Everybody liked her. She was a class act, and she's still very, very young. She left on good terms. Triple H paid tribute to the Undisputed Era, paid tribute to her. Keithley, everybody else showing love. And the fans, the outpouring of love to her was tremendous. I mean, she was just fabulous. And she's very young, and she wants to pursue and expand. I mean, look, I'm not trying to compare her to me. But you see, I'm on video with you now. And I'm doing a lot of other shows now that don't involve some of the people I've done shows with for years. Because after a while, sometimes you feel you need a new challenge. You need to branch out. You want to expand. You want to grow. Some people are very content on where they are. I totally respect that. Others, they need new challenges. And you look at Cathy Kelly, and that's a case where, there was no falling out. There was no heat. There was no problems with her and the company. She just needed to expand and broaden her talents. So she is gone. Look at Vic Joseph. I talked about it on Monday. He's going to be doing some work with NBA TV. Expand, grow, expand your portfolio. So, I wanted to mention that because she deserved that mention, and I know a lot of you out there appreciated her work. So best wishes to Cathy Kelly, and I think everybody out there, like I said, the sunshine is so bright around there. I think that might have made some people jealous online. And you see, there's always somebody who will always say something negative. You know, nobody gets 100% approval rate. Nobody. But best wishes to her. Very quickly, Impact Wrestling, want to mention this really quick. They have signed this man to a contract, Chris Bay. Now, some of you out there, if you're a fan of Impact Wrestling, you should already know this man. This man did wrestle on Impact TV in February, August, and September of 2019 when they toured California and Las Vegas. I believe Chris Bay may even be from California. Very, very young guy. He's only 24 years old. And, you know, there was a little bit of controversy online because I think in Cody's conference call last week, he said that he was scouting Chris Bay through YouTube. I mean, that's all that's really him saying is that he was watching YouTube videos of wrestlers that they haven't signed. But Chris Bay had already done work for Impact Wrestling. Wrestled mostly on the West Coast, GCW. He did a little work for Ring of Honor, Bar Wrestling, FSW, APW, NPW. And here's a little tidbit that some of you may get a kick out of. He wrestled on Explosion back in February 2019. And from my research, I tried to find a match. I used to be a subscriber of Impact Wrestling Streaming Network. I canceled it about a month ago, so I couldn't check it. But from my research, when he wrestled on Explosion in February 2019, his opponent was Luchasaurus. So, and if you go and you check him out, all right, this guy is legit. Some of his recent opponents, and I'm talking within the last year, Jeff Cobb, Nick Gage, Damian Drake, Lucas Riley, Rich Swann, Brian Cage, Matt Cross, and even faced Arya Davari on 205 Live back in October. So he is signed with Impact Wrestling. I think that is a very good signing, and we'll see what he can do. I think he will definitely be a big asset. I want to see, you know, him do some work with Rich Swann and TJP. I think that will definitely be something to look forward to. Very quickly before we go, I wanted to make mention as well, NWA, they announced the details on the Crockett Cup. We were talking about it last week. April 19th, they announced is going to be in College Park, Georgia at the Gateway Center Arena. And also, if you remember last week, they were teasing on YouTube that if they got like 10,000 likes, they were going to reveal the location and the date. And I had said that 95% of us don't live where they're going to announce it. And said it'll probably be somewhere around Georgia. None of us, for the most part, live near there. So, you know, we could like it, but what is that? It's almost like, remember I said it's almost like the Jacksonville, you know, announcement for AEW. So I had said, joking around, you want 10,000 likes. Tell fans you'll bring back Into the Fire's theme if you get 10,000 likes. So a friend of mine, Dells, actually contacted Dave Lagana. I think if I would have contacted him, he probably would have just ignored me because I had, you know, those comments to say that time about, you know, the, you know, situation with Cornette. But he asked Dave Lagana for me, and he said, you know, how come you're not using Into the Fire anymore? Remember I said, you know, I wondered if it had to do with royalties or anything like that. Dave Lagana did respond. The reason why NWA is not using Into the Fire anymore is because they just decided they wanted to try a different theme. It was just a creative decision on their part, nothing more, nothing less. To me, I think it was the wrong decision to make. Into the Fire, they're on the inside looking out. We're on the outside looking in. The perception of us wrestling fans, that theme is so much better, Into the Fire, than Dokken, for the most part. So I'm still holding out hope that they will change it back because obviously they want to, you know, please fans out there. I'm sure they're not going to change things back and add things simply because people demand it. Otherwise, they'll be making 1,000 changes a week. But that's definitely something I want to see. Hopefully they do in the very near future. So that is the details on the Crockett Cup. A few of you, well, you know what? I'm going to talk about MLW next week because they signed Zachary Cooper. I will give you some background on Zachary Cooper next week. Now, Impact Wrestling, getting back to them, they're having their pay-per-view this weekend, Sacrifice. Now, if you go on Wiki and some sites, they're only showing 4 matches. But, going to some other places out there, I found that they're showing 8 matches. So I don't know if it's 4 matches or is 8 matches, but as you could see on the screen, this might be the tentative card. I will tell you that on Wiki, they have Tessa Blanchard versus Ace Austin. Ace Austin is the X Division champion. No titles are on the line. So I almost expect some type of a clusterfuck finish. Maybe interference from someone. I just can't see one defeating the other on this. Rhino versus Moose, which will be a very interesting match. I almost feel like Moose needs to come out on top on that one. Daga versus Jake Christ is another one. Kind of would like to see Jake Christ overcome that one. Jordan Grace, I believe, defending a Knockouts title against Havoc. I see Jordan Grace retaining that for sure. Now, some other matches that some people are reporting, they're saying Willie Mack versus Jay Bradley. If that match goes down, I'd like to see Willie Mack take it. Johnny Swigger versus Joey Ryan. I want to see if Joey Ryan continues his gimmick. Either way, I think Joey Ryan has to take it. Maybe he gets help from RVD. Larry D and Romero versus Fulton and Christ. I don't know what's going on with that, but I'm if that match goes down, I think Larry D and Romero probably lose. The North versus the Rascals. I'll go with the Rascals, but that is the pay-per-view this weekend. It's only available on Impact Plus. So, I don't know what kind of buy rate they're going to get, but one thing I do know is that everybody there is going to work their ass off regardless. And before I go, I just want to talk a little bit quickly about an update with Teddy Hart. And, like I said, not going to kick the guy while he's down. Again, you go on social media and you talk about, not bullying people and, just because you think you know somebody, somebody could have a lot more psychological problems than you know. I don't like the idea of kicking someone while they're down. He's got some big problems right now, but he did have a court update yesterday. And Maria Manick, I don't have the video here, but Maria Manick posted a video, and she's talking about what happened with the court yesterday. Basically, to give you a long story short, and I'm going to fill in a couple of blanks that a lot of people are not aware of. They're basically offering Teddy Hart house arrest in Virginia. Now, I had said on Monday that it makes no sense for them to force Teddy Hart to remain in Virginia house arrest if he doesn't live there. Did not make sense. Now I understand why it did not make sense. Here's basically what it comes down to. And there's someone that I see on Solomonster's page a lot. Some of you interact with him. His name is Jeff Lipton. He's the one that I think got it more on point than anybody else. For those that want to do a little research and get a little bit of info that'll help you understand what's going on with Teddy Hart and his situation in Virginia, there is something in Virginia called the Home Incarceration Act. And what that is as a condition of probation or bail, instead of keeping someone in prison, it's also to cut down costs with the prison system and everything, that they will give someone the option in lieu of bail. They will give someone the option of house arrest. And what that means is that you have to be in a house under arrest and remain in Virginia until your trial. That is not you can't force someone who doesn't live in Virginia to rent a house and move in somewhere and stay there until your trial. That wasn't the only option for Teddy Hart. Teddy Hart could remain in jail. Teddy Hart could have possibly been given bail where he can leave the state, but has to pay an extraordinarily high bail. I don't know what would be considered high, 100,000? I don't know. So what they propose is if you have residence in Virginia, and I'm giving you the very easy Cliff Notes version of it. If you notice, I'm not reading anything. I'm looking straight at you. But basically what a court will do is if you have a residence in Virginia, they will let you out of jail. But you may have to wear a monitoring device and you have to stay in Virginia. If you need to work while you're not, it's not that you have to be unemployed. If you need to work from now until your court case, and Teddy Hart's case might not be till the end of April, you can work, but you have to get permission from the court, and you probably have to wear a monitoring device. So now when Maria Manic goes on video and says that we have to find a place for Teddy Hart to stay, that she has family, this and that, the only reason why they offered home incarceration to Teddy Hart is because somebody on Teddy Hart's side told the court that he has residence in Virginia. That is a fact. Doesn't have to be his family, doesn't have to be him, but somebody told the court, probably said it was Maria Manic's family, that he had family in Virginia or his girlfriend's family in Virginia, that he could stay. So the court said, okay, we'll let you out, but you have to remain under house arrest in Virginia until your trial. If Teddy Hart says, I don't have any place to stay in Virginia, they'll give you two options. Somebody has to find a place for you immediately. You have to have an address. You have to have an active telephone. You can't just rent a hotel room. You either do that, or if you don't have residence, you either have to pay an awfully high bail so you can go back to wherever you are in the United States, may not be able to go back to Canada, or they may leave you in jail until trial. Look at Tammy. Tammy Sitch, I feel bad for her. She's got a lot of problems. If you followed some of her arrests in the past, she was in jail 2, 3, 4 months. And some of the charges weren't anything outrageous where she was, you understand what I'm saying? You can't make bail. You stay in jail. I don't mean to rhyme. I'm not, sometimes I sound like a poet, but, in case you didn't know it, but if you can't make bail, you remain in jail. So Teddy Hart could have remained in jail. Teddy Hart could have possibly been offered bail and not be in Virginia, but another problem is they may be worried of a flight risk. If you look at his charges closely, being a flight risk, I don't think Teddy Hart is that high in the radar, because if you do some research about Virginia, there's been some wacky cases where some guy was offered house arrest and he gave his mother's address, and it ends up that his mother did not approve of it, and the guy ended up having a shooting over the weekend and possibly killed like a 13-year-old kid or something like that. So a house arrest, there are some clear-cut rules. But when Maria Manic does this video and makes it sound like they're forcing him to stay in Virginia, he has no place to stay. We're going to try to keep him up over here, and I don't know what to do. No, that's because somebody told the court he has residence that he could stay in Virginia. Otherwise, they wouldn't have offered him that. So I want everybody to understand, and again, this is not knocking Teddy Hart in any way. This is not knocking Maria Manic in any way. I wish nothing but the best for Teddy Hart. Sometimes you got to hit rock bottom to finally turn it around. Maybe this is Teddy Hart's rock bottom. I don't know. But I wanted everybody to understand how house incarceration works in Virginia. So that is the reason why he has to stay there. And that's why it didn't make sense on Monday, because if you don't have residence and you don't have any place to stay, they can't tell you, well, you better find a place. No, they leave you in jail, or they might offer you a crazy high bail. And he couldn't do either one of them. He wanted to get out. So his only option to get out now without paying a crazy high bail was to remain in Virginia and staying over some family member of Maria Manic. That's the deal. And trust me, I'm not saying this bragging, but if you listen to what I said last week and you listen to what I said tonight, everything I said is 99.9% accurate. Even last week I said it's probably weed and steroids. And that appears to be what it was. The word ketamine, I think, might have been floating around. But again, I have to still verify that. But trust me, as soon as I get another update, and I am getting updates directly from Virginia, I will share with everybody. But with that said, I think we're done. Damn, I wanted this to be shorter than last week's episode, with the exception of that 30 seconds of battery annoyance in the beginning. I don't think we had any technical difficulties. So I'm pretty happy with the way this show turned out today. Like I said, I'm still only about 4.5 weeks doing this. It's a big dramatic change to go from 23. I know it sounds like a broken record, but, to go 22.5 years just audio and now making the jump to video, it's an awesome challenge. I am having a ball. This blows away anything that I ever did, whether it's my solo shows or anything. This has just been absolutely outstanding. I absolutely love being able to interact with you this way. Now, if you notice, I did not wear my 80s stuff, even though we broke 7,000, because I told everybody out there that if we break 7,000, I'll wear some of my outfits from the 80s that I went through some old boxes and found. So maybe next week, maybe Friday, I'll wear some 80s stuff. I'm not sure. Any of you out there that follow me personally or see me on Twitter, I've posted photos of yours truly as a Guido in the 80s. Luckily, my mom kept some old egg boxes with old photos and old clothes that were in storage for about 30 years. So more than 30 years, if you think about it. So some of the outfits fit. Some of them are tight. I have a Sergio Tacchini jacket that I wanted to wear on this show. If I put it on, you will laugh hysterical. It is tight. I mean, it looks like a muscle shirt on me. And trust me, I don't look good in muscle shirts. But I have I have a Sergio Tacchini polo. I have my old Alessio jeans that were like stonewashed gray and white. I have my old Miami Vice Playboy decks. I got everything cleaned. So maybe I'll surprise. And by the way, when we hit 10,000, I will put on the Deli Man outfit, and I will do an episode as Deli Man. I don't know which episode yet because, I haven't worn a mask more than maybe 15, 20 minutes at any time. And I don't think doing a 2-hour podcast or a 90-minute podcast wearing a mask would be all that fun. The smell of breath. If anybody's ever been on a keto diet, you know what keto breath smells like. Now imagine me having keto breath and under a mask. Not that. Oh my God! I'd rather sniff an obese podcaster's asshole for 2 hours than wear a mask. So, but anyway, please send me your feedback. YouTube, Twitter @DonTonyD. It is always read. It is always appreciated. I thank you as always for the support. And I will be back with your next episode of Wednesday Night Don-O-Mite next week for sure. Everyone, enjoy the rest of the week. We'll see what the ratings end up tomorrow. Sometimes I am spot on, sometimes a little bit off, but I think AEW definitely, expands their viewership this week from top to bottom. A very fun show. NXT as well, but not as noteworthy. So, all right, everybody, I'm out of here. Take care, be well, and I will catch you all again next week. Ciao, everybody.
Don-O-Mite.
It was fun to channel surf. It was kind of hard to do a little pocket pool after you hitting the last channel button 50 times for 2 hours plus.
Don-O-Mite.
And his whole idea of overanalyzing, he's an alcoholic and he misplaced the belt. And how could you have someone champion like that? The fuck out of here.
Wednesday night.
Don-O-Mite, you can have fun. You really are. And thank you, Matthew Rychecki. Hey, he sent a little contribution to the Don Tony Fund, so it would be very disrespectful if I just took it without thanking him. And, I should have mentioned this too. For all you fans of Wrestling Soup and have been waiting for the confrontation between yours truly and Joey Numbers, that will be happening in the next probably 2 weeks. Talked to Joey earlier this week. And we're going to set that up. So we'll definitely be doing that very, very soon. Take care, everyone. Talk to you all. Love you. Out of here. No, love you as friend.